right. This week on the Coach and the Don, we have an awesome interview with Ben Lyons. Does a little bit of everything in the entertainment and sports industry. Then we break down our top 3 teams in the NFL that would love to reset their season. We go into our top 5 animated films of all time. This includes Pixar, DreamWorks, anything made by Disney. And finally, we continue with our NFL casting call, this week starring Forrest Gump. And welcome back to another edition of the Coach and the Don, Wednesday night, live on Twitter and YouTube. For those of you up late, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. Certainly. Coach, how you doing?
Doing well, man. Little wacky Wednesday action.
Wacky Wednesday. Yeah, we're doing it Wednesday because we had such a privilege of interviewing someone that I've been following for a long time. His name is Ben Lyons. Really cool guy. Does a ton in the entertainment industry, in the sports industry, did stuff with voting this year, has been on films, producing, just a little bit of everything. So we had an awesome interview with him tonight, and really enjoyed that. So for those of you that are listening to the podcast recorded version, whether it be tomorrow, whether it be 2 weeks from now, or I'm just going to look in the future and say, April 18th, 2020, well, we're going to go right into that interview right now. And for those of you listening live, we're going to jump into the rest of our show. But right now, we're going to get into our interview with Ben Lyons. And for those of you listening live, you can check out that interview tomorrow. It will be dropping. But we're going to get on with the rest of the program. So like we mentioned, we'll jump into some NFL stuff. Everyone loves a mulligan. I think it's a golf term. If anyone golfs out there, it's that shot that you're better than that. You really do. You shanked one in the woods, you hit one in the water, you duffed one off the turf. Just wasn't a good shot. You're better than that. You're averaging like an 84 handicap. Maybe you're a scratch golfer. You're not shooting in the woods. You're not shanking it. You're not. So I think NFL teams feel that same way. And so we're going to go through some teams, our top 3, that are better than their record shows, and if they had a mulligan, could rewrite their script this season.
Yes, sir.
So I'm gonna let you start. I feel like I've been talking a lot to begin this podcast.
I like it. I'm mesmerized.
Well, thank you.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, wacky Wednesdays, baby. Wacky Wednesdays.
So my first reset button is going to be for the Atlanta Falcons.
There you go. It's like the Staples.
Yeah, the Staples reset button.
The easy
button.
Easy
there
button.
you go.
Yeah, we'll call it the reset button.
Yeah. The Sports Dente reset button goes to the Atlanta Falcons. Kicked off the season with a really high-profile game on a Thursday night with the defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, a game they dropped. Came back in what's now looking like a really quality win against the Carolina Panthers in Week 2.
Well, I don't want to cut you off, but that first loss was 15-12. I mean, they were in that game. They just could not – I think they were not 0 for 4 because they got field goals, but they did not get a touchdown. Did they not have 4 field goals?
I believe so, yeah. I don't think they scored.
Yeah. So, that game changed like that. So, anyway, I digress. Go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. And then they of course, played the Saints in what's always seems to be a really good game. That game went into overtime. Another quality, if you want to call it a quality loss. Lost to the Bengals in a very close game, last-second touchdown to A.J. Green. They drop a game to Pittsburgh. They get blown out after 2 really emotional losses. It's kind of expected to have a drop-the-ball kind of a game. They come back, beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, beat the Giants, go on their bye week, beat a pretty good Washington Redskins team. They look like they've gotten back on track, and all of a sudden they drop last week to the Cleveland Browns. So if I'm Atlanta, yeah, I'm hitting that reset button as fast as I can because you are a lot better team than 4-5. The wins they have been close, not against great teams, Tampa and New York. I mean, they have a quality win against Carolina, like I mentioned, but it seemed to hit the breaking point against Cleveland. Cleveland's a good team. We've talked about it a lot. We really like Cleveland.
Yeah, we have.
But when you hear that your team lost to the Cleveland Browns, it just leaves a really, really bad taste in your mouth, regardless of whatever Cleveland's doing right now, rebuilding. But so yeah, I think realistically, this team talent-wise, and what if they avoided that injury bug, they could be sitting at 2 losses, maybe even 3, potentially 1 loss. Yeah, this is a really good, solid NFC South team that I think just got off on the wrong foot of the season, suffered a bunch of injuries, key injuries, and they just haven't really been able to rebound.
Yeah. If they could hit that al dente reset button for sure, sitting at 4 or 5. I had them on my list. I had others because I knew you would mention them, but they're a prime candidate. They just have so much talent on that roster. We talked about coaches last week on the show, and Dan Quinn's one of the guys we really think is a great coach. I mean, people see 4 and 5, and automatically the first thing they say is fire the coach. Like, no, Dan Quinn's a good coach. Relax. They've had a lot of injuries. They've lost some close games. Yep. Sometimes, it's a competitive league. It's professional football.
Oh, yeah,
sometimes
it's the NFL, best of the best.
Best of the best. Sometimes it just comes down to other players beating players, and that's what happens.
It really is a game of inches.
Yeah,
really
absolutely. Yeah, and we say that all the time. And I mean, I think because we played it, we played high school.
Yeah, exactly. We played the smallest scale possible,
and not well in my department, to say the least. I stood on the sidelines most of it, but hey, I at least was there. I practiced a lot, practiced hard.
There you go.
I would have done great on Vance Joseph's teams because I practiced very well.
There you go.
All right, well, my team that I have on there, you kind of alluded to a lot. I have the Cleveland Browns. That's one of the teams I hit the reset button. They're sitting at 3-6-1 right now. Ton of talent on that roster. I think what's hard about the reset button for them is if could you reset now that they've made a coaching change? Because I don't know if you reset back and just it goes back to the way it was and they just start 0-0 with Hugh Jackson back at the helm, we'd probably see the same effect. So, but if we could reset with what currently stands as is, back to training camp. Not saying Greg Williams, I think, is going to be the coach of the future, but I think he's
doing his job.
Better than Jackson.
Yeah, he's doing his job right now.
Yeah, is he going to lead them to the Super Bowl or even the playoffs? No,
Probably
I don't think so.
No, not now.
But I think he'd be a better option at least than Hugh has been. So yeah, they've been to 3 or 4 overtime games.
They've been to 4.
4. One of those being a tie. And have they lost the other 3?
No,
they win 1 and lose 2?
They won at least 1.
Okay.
Because they beat the Ravens in overtime, I believe.
I think you're right, yeah.
But yeah, so I guess 1-1-2.
Yeah, which is
1-2-1.
1-2-1, which is absurd. They've been to 4 overtime games.
And it's week 10. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, unbelievable. They've lost a lot of close games. We've seen progression from them where we've talked about how they sometimes have a top 10, sometimes top 5 defense, and then the next week is just not the case whatsoever. We've seen the offense. We've seen Baker look absolutely great, and then we've seen not necessarily Baker look bad, but just look like a rookie.
Look
like a rookie. We've seen them utilize Carlos Hyde as their main back, and then they trade him away, and we see Nick Chubb, who we all said we thought he was going to be coming out of Georgia, being this elite-type running back, and now they're using him, and we're seeing the kind of effects of that. So that's, I think, definitely a prime candidate that, hey, let's hit the reset button and see what we can do in that AFC North that is a very interesting division right now with Cincy falling, Pittsburgh looks good, but there's drama going on. Baltimore started good, now bad. So
yeah.
I still think Cleveland has a shot to make the playoffs.
I do too.
I'm not saying they will. I know we said it earlier. We picked them both as a wild card.
We did,
but they still have a shot.
They do. They still have a shot. So I had Cleveland on my list. I'm not going to go a lot into them, but my biggest reason why I think they should reset the season is if they could reset it all the way back to last offseason and get rid of Hugh then and there, and that way they get an actual coach for 2018 moving forward. You kind of alluded to that, but that was why I had them on my list.
Can you imagine if Sean McVay was the coach of the Cleveland Browns.
Mm.
And I don't want to take anything from the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
We've mentioned how many times we love Sean McVay. Let's at least give the Rams some credit. There's phenomenal talent on that roster. So I don't want to take away from that. He has phenomenal pieces. Yes, he's a phenomenal mind, I think, but Jared Goff's looked great. Obviously, Todd Gurley may be the best, for sure, running back, maybe the best offensive player in the league right now.
Mm-hmm.
Great offensive line. They have a great receiving core. I mean, pieces are there, so I don't want to take away from that.
Mm-hmm.
But just seeing how that changed from Fisher to him with Baker and Nick Chubb and that receiving core, and Njoku at tight end, like, it'd be fun to watch.
It would be. The other one I think of is if they would have fired Hugh when they should have, and they would have gotten a chance at Matt Nagy.
Yeah, another one.
Pair him with Greg Williams. That's a pretty good pairing. He's with Vic Fangio right now in Chicago, and they're doing a pretty good job. But I think Nagy's offensive mind with Baker and Chubb. And
and I think I don't know them personally, but I think Nagy and Williams would have gotten along on the coaching staff. Like you saw at Hard Knocks, like the clashing of we didn't really see it too much with Hugh and Williams, but for sure Hugh and Haley, and then Haley. I think Haley almost was like the wrecking ball and all of that, and then Hugh just couldn't contain it, which as a head coach you need to. Nagy's another good name. But anyway, moving on.
Yeah, moving on. So, another team I had, the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Oh, yeah. I don't know why I didn't think that's a phenomenal one. Go ahead.
Yeah, so they started pretty well.
I think why I didn't have them is because they started like 3-0.
Right, they did, yeah. And then the reason I chuckle is because they ran into the buzzsaw and under the Kansas City Chiefs, and I don't know if they won a game since their Chiefs.
They've lost 6 straight.
Yeah.
3-6, yeah.
That was at the time, that was the game of the year. The Jaguars defense against the Chiefs offense, and let's see who comes out on top. And it really was never a game, and Chiefs kind of dominated that whole time. And since then, the Jaguars have not been the same team. So if they can hit that reset button and go back and maybe do a little something different in that Chiefs game, I'm not saying they can. I don't want them to be able to win the game, but if they could do it a little bit different, make it a little bit closer, and walk away feeling a little bit better, they're probably in a different spot right now in the season. That game was so hyped, and they came out so flat. I just don't think they've recovered yet, and they are a good team. They have a lot of talent. So for me, that's a resettable season. You start off really well. You have one pretty bad game in a high-profile setting, and then you just don't recover. So I think they just want to go back to that point in time where they were one of the hottest teams in the NFL and just start that game over against the Chiefs.
Yeah, I think if they could rewind, what they would do is have Jalen Ramsey not talk ish on not only every player in the NFL, but Tyreek Hill and every Chief offensive player that just became. As he hasn't talked since then.
And he shouldn't.
He's been shut up because that defense has gotten blistered every game since then.
Yeah.
Every game since then. I can't think of a game where they've held a team under like 20 points.
No, the game against Dallas, didn't Dallas drop like a lot of points on them?
Like 34.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
I mean, I'm not saying, and that was before the Amari Cooper trade. Like that was.
Yeah. That was when Dallas was and still arguably a bad offense.
Yeah.
And they looked good against that Jacksonville defense.
Yeah, they did.
Indianapolis last week, who I think Indy actually has a good offense, but again, scorched him on offense.
Mm-hmm.
And Jacksonville almost came back and ended up winning, but they didn't.
No. Yeah, there's something going on in Jacksonville, and I think they just need to reset.
Yeah.
And, unfortunately,
here's a question for you.
Yeah.
Because, they're a good team to reset, but let's say moving forward now, they can't reset.
Mm-hmm.
Who goes first? Doug Marrone or Blake Bortles?
I would say Blake. He's been given more opportunities. Granted, I'm not going to say he had them one game away from the Super Bowl, but the team themselves were one game away from the Super Bowl last year. I would say Blake goes first because Doug seems to be doing his job, but at some point you just have to, admit when you're wrong and kind of move on and what's the phrase I'm looking for?
Wash your hands of the situation, or
no? It's I can't think of it right now, but just kind of cut your losses. There we go. Cut your losses and kind of move on from Blake. Find the new face of the offense because your defense is good as long as you can keep everybody intact.
Yeah. And the offense has talent.
They do. They have some nice receivers over there, and they have a good running game. If Leonard can stay healthy now with Carlos backing him up, and T.J. Yeldon is a serviceable running back. And
do you know who their offensive coordinator is?
I don't.
I don't know his name.
I
either.
don't. I can look it up.
Yeah, look it up. So I think what's interesting to me, I think I agree with you that Bortles, even though he just recently signed a decent contract, I think it was close to a 4-year, $80 million, but it was only 30 or so guaranteed or something like that. So it wasn't huge as far as quarterbacks are concerned. Did you find the OC coordinator? I saw you make a face.
I did. Small world. He's from Fullerton, California.
Oh, okay.
He went to UC Davis. Started off in 2003 as an assistant linebackers coach at UC Davis and kind of worked his way. He was at Stanford for a while. He's been to a few NFL teams, but he's most recently been the quarterbacks coach at Jacksonville, and he was promoted to OC in 2016.
And what's his name?
Nathaniel Hackett.
That's right, Nathaniel Hackett. Okay. Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. Journey.
Yeah, Journey. There you go. But no, so what I was saying, I agree with you that I think Bortles is on a shorter leash than Marrone. But I would not be shocked if both of them, depending how this season ends up, but 3-6, they're trending definitely down. Tom Coughlin, remember, came in after both of them were there. I wouldn't be surprised if he just washes his hands of both of them and said, "Hey, let's start fresh next year." I want my coach.
Yeah.
I'm bringing in a different quarterback, whether it be through the draft, whether it be I'll bring Eli over from we'll draft someone and Eli can be the quarterback for my year or two, groom the rookie. But I don't see a future with Blake. I know Eli, I trust him, I know his work ethic, he's a good guy. He'll help me train. I'm going to tell him, "Hey, I'm going to pay you a good amount of money if you come out here and your sole job right now is to train our rookie quarterback." I wouldn't be shocked if that happened.
So and I'm just kind of maybe playing a bit of devil's advocate, but if I was a Jacksonville fan, and you get rid of Blake, and you find out that for the next year or two your quarterback's going to be Eli Manning, you thrilled to death about that?
I'm not thrilled whatsoever. I would not want that. I'm just saying the ties between Coughlin and Eli,
Sure.
It makes sense.
No,
and I think New York's at that point where they're ready to move on.
Yeah.
There's really no ties to keep him there anymore than the fact that just what he's given that organization. But everyone else that's been around him in years is gone.
Yeah.
And I think I'm not saying Kyle Aletto is the future maybe, but I think they're ready to see what else they have, being how their season's gone.
Mm-hmm.
So whether they release him or if Jacksonville says, "Hey, we'll give you a 6th-round pick for him," Coughlin has ties. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Are you worse off with Eli than you are with Blake?
No, but I don't think you're necessarily better.
Oh, I don't either.
And I think that's the goal, though. So if I'm Jacksonville's front office, if I'm Tom Coughlin, I have a relationship with Eli, but to me that's not enough. I'm looking at guys like Tyrod Taylor. I'm looking at guys like Nick Foles, younger guys who still are technically closer to their prime than Eli is. I'm looking at bridge quarterbacks like that who can come in, bridge that gap, and then draft someone. Maybe 19 or 20 that can take the reins at a later date. Eli, boy,
see,
I don't know, man.
I hear you because those two are better now options, 100%.
Sure.
I think 100%. Tyrod is absolutely better than Eli, I think. For me, though, if you're getting a bridge quarterback, especially in Jacksonville, you're getting a guy that you're not planning on definitely not winning the Super Bowl, probably not even making the playoffs with. You're looking for a guy that's just going to, maybe win you some games.
But why not, though? I mean, why? I mean, you were a game away with Blake, so why couldn't a Nick Foles or a Tyrod get you to a Super Bowl with that same defense?
I mean, you could have that mindset. I don't think they could, but I see where you're coming from.
This year, no.
Yeah.
I don't think. I mean, obviously,
Pass, but no, I see what you're saying. Bring in like a Tyrod and maybe I could see that maybe. But I think what I'm thinking is, if you're bringing in a bridge guy, that usually that bridge guy is there to either buy you time while you look for someone better, or buy you time to groom someone. And if I want someone to groom someone, I'd probably rather have an Eli Manning as opposed to a Tyrod Taylor grooming him.
Yeah, no, and I totally get that. And if we're going that approach, tell Eli to retire, bring him on as an assistant quarterback coach or the quarterback coach, and have them,
Yeah.
You get the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Best of both worlds.
In reality, what I think Jacksonville will do, and then we're going to move on, but in reality, Jacksonville should go hard after Jameis Winston. Stay in your own state.
Ooh.
I think Tampa Bay wants to move on.
That's interesting.
Right? Why not? I mean, the guy, we know what he is. He's going to throw a crap ton of picks.
Yeah.
But the talent's there.
The talent is there.
He can win you games. Can he lose you games? Yeah, he definitely can, which is frustrating as hell.
Mm-hmm.
But he can win you games. Bortles is going to lose you games. Can he win you games? We haven't really seen him win you games.
Right.
We've seen you not lose you games, and we've seen you lose in games.
But
we haven't seen him win games.
Right. But what you're saying here, Jameis Winston, the best type of team for that kind of quarterback is a team with an elite defense.
Yeah.
And that's what Jacksonville
should
have.
And that's exactly what Tampa Bay doesn't have, and that's why they struggle with him. But if he has that background of a defense, his already great leadership qualities, cannon arm.
Yeah, he has that.
That could be an interesting.
He has that defense to kind of bail him out. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is interesting. That's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and I'm sure, even though I think Tampa's ready to move on, I don't think they're just going to release him. I think they're going to be asking a bounty for him, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, spending a first-round pick on a guy like that.
But if you're Jacksonville, why wouldn't you give a second or first-round pick for him? Why not?
Exactly.
Give it a shot.
And at best, you find a franchise quarterback in a trade. At worst, you find a really good bridge quarterback, and hopefully you get a quarterback of the future in the draft.
There's your bridge, yeah. So
beautiful.
Cool. So that was yours, so we're back to me, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, this is probably a more surprising one. I'm going to go with the Seattle Seahawks.
Okay, I did think about them, but I left them off my list.
Yeah, and not because they've had a bad season. They've honestly shocked me. I had them as one of my teams to be in contention for the first overall pick, just with what they did in the offseason, not addressing the offensive line, how many defensive pieces they lost, coaching changes they made. Brian Schottenheimer's very vanilla on the offensive coordinator play calling. They've surprised me. I mean, obviously, if you have Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson, you always have a shot to win. Their running game has kind of been a little bit revitalized with Chris Carson. Mike Davis has looked good. Rashad Penny finally looked good last week. Hasn't really done much before that, but the defense has almost played above their heads. The offensive line has played better. So they've looked better. Here's why I want them to hit the reset button. Two things. The record is 4-5 right now. In those 5 losses, week 1 they lost to Denver in Denver by, I believe, 6 points. Week 2 they lost in Chicago to Chicago by 7 points. They've lost to the Rams now twice by a combined score of 6 points. Lost by 2 in Seattle, lost by 4 last Sunday in LA. So that's 4 games that they've lost by 1 score.
Yeah.
Oh, and not to mention, they lost to the LA Chargers the week before by 1 score in Seattle.
Yeah,
They had a last-second chance. You remember Russell Wilson, that incomplete pass?
Yep.
That's 5 games they lost by 1 score. So they're 4-5. They could easily be 8-1.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they should be 8-1, but let's be realistic. 6-3.
Yeah.
For sure, 6-3.
Yeah.
And then my other reset button would be the whole Earl Thomas situation. How they handled that in the offseason. Him obviously getting injured, breaking his leg, being out for the year, his malcontent, flipping off the sidelines. Is what it is. I think it should have just been, they could have handled that. If they would have handled that differently, he would have been training the whole time. I'm not saying the reason why he broke his leg is because he wasn't training with the team, but it doesn't help.
Right.
I mean, look at Dez. You're not training. You get injured. I mean, we both played not just football. We play other sports. Like, if you're not, you can train on your own. It's different than training with your team.
It's
so
100% different.
Not blaming anything Earl Thomas did or anything, but had the team handled the situation better, he may have not been lost for the season. He could have been paid, but he could have been happy. They could be not only better than 4-5, but they'd have their Pro Bowl / All-Pro safety back. And Seahawks could be the surprise. They still are, I think, but they could be even more of a surprise in the NFC.
Yeah, that's a good point. That is a good point. Like I said, I kind of gave him a little bit of thought, but then I kind of brushed him off because I thought there's other teams I can pick. But yeah, that's not a bad one because they've been very close in a lot of games, and they're, like I always say, game of inches. They're a few inches, a few plays away from being one of those, a team that's looking like they're going to be in the playoffs. But right now it's borderline. Yeah,
and I feel like Pete Carroll's one of the coaches that some people think he's a great coach, some people think he's not, some people are borderline. this year's more showing that I think he is a very good coach with the talent he has and how they're still.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's 4-5, so you have to look at the record, but just how they're competing and how they're playing, I give him the nod.
Very true. That's a good point. All right. So do you want to do your third and final, and then I'll do mine, or do you want me to go and then you go?
You go, then I'll go.
Okay. I have a team that I almost guarantee you don't have on your list. But I have a very specific reason for having them on mine. I'm going to go New Orleans Saints. So they dropped their opening game of the season to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 48-40. And then they've rambled off 9 straight wins. They're 9-1.
Yeah.
You hit that reset button and you get a second chance at that opening day game. You handle business against Tampa Bay. And if they win that game and everything else happens the way it happened, the Saints are 10-0 right now. Everybody's talking about them. Everybody's right now talking about the Chiefs, the Rams. Steelers are really picking up heat.
Yeah, they are kind of the forgotten best team in the NFL.
Yeah, and let's be honest. They probably right now are the best team in the NFL.
Yeah.
You take away that Tampa Bay game, you reset it, and they beat them as they should, knowing what we know now. They're 10-0, looking like the absolute favorite to win the Super Bowl. And looking at the remainder of their schedule, very possible to go undefeated if you're 10-0. You have Carolina twice, which are going to be rough games, but very winnable, and the Steelers. And that's, I think, the second to the last game of the year. They're going to be cooled off by then, and they have to play Atlanta one more time. But other than that, very winnable games. If the Saints win that first game against Tampa Bay, they're being talked about as possibly being the next undefeated team going into the playoffs, but they're not. But if you hit that reset button, maybe.
So you're saying chasing history.
Yeah, chasing history. They're already doing it. Breeze has broken the all-time passing record. He just passed Favre for second all-time on the touchdown list. This could be it already is. It's already a historic great season for the Saints, but if you're 10-0 with your quarterback breaking all these career records, Michael Thomas is looking like a star wide receiver in the league. You have the best running back tandem we've seen in a long time, if not ever. Your defense is finally playing up to the reputation that everybody expected. That team should be being talked about a lot more. And if it hadn't been for that first loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, that is all we would be hearing right now is the New Orleans Saints and how historically significant that team is. And at the end of the day, at the end of the season, that may be what we're talking about, is how historically significant this New Orleans Saints is. And we may be missing it right in front of our eyes. We may be being distracted by flashing the pans and shining bright diamonds when we really should be looking south and looking at Drew Brees and the Saints, saying that's going to go down as one of the best teams in NFL history.
Who dat? Who dat?
Who dat, baby?
Wait, who dat? Who dat? Yeah, no, that's a good point. You took an interesting angle there, which is always fun, which I always like you do. You throw a little wrinkle.
I try.
Little wrinkle in time.
I try.
Yeah, but no, for real. I mean, they're 9-1, and they are not even. How am I saying this correctly? They're a strong 9-1. Like, they haven't had any really. They've had close encounters, but nothing where you're like, they snuck away with the win there. They're maybe against the Browns in week 2. They snuck away with the win against the Browns.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah. But other than that, they've been pretty. Yeah, even the Rams, they were fairly dominant. Yeah, the Rams kind of came storming back, but they ended up winning by 10 points or so.
Right.
Yeah.
Their dominant performance against the Redskins.
Yeah.
Who look like a playoff team.
Yeah. Yeah, and the defense is starting to kind of figure it out a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fun one. So, my last one. You're gonna call me a homer, but I think it needs to be said. The Denver Broncos deserve a reset button. 3-6 on the year. Don't laugh. You know it's fair. If we're going to say the Browns or the Falcons, are the Broncos win the Super Bowl? Probably not. Actually, no, definitely not. Definitely not. I'll agree there. But let me break it down for you.
Yeah,
3-6 on the year. 3-6 on the year. Of those 6 losses, throw out the Jets game. That was an abomination. Abomination, trash.
I'd throw it out if I was a Bronco fan too, but
Oh,
I'm not,
man.
luckily, so go ahead.
Yeah, that was. It's okay. We'll throw that out. So they're on 1, whatever, to start the year.
Wait, before we move on, I, as a Chiefs fan, was actually trying to like console or make that game appear better to you. That's how bad Denver Broncos played in that game. But Chiefs fans felt sorry for you.
Oh, it was atrocious.
It was terrible.
It was yeah. I stopped and took an hour making pancakes because I couldn't even watch it. It was awful.
Sorry. Go ahead.
It was just it was almost okay. We can't relate because we're not fans of these teams.
Mm-hmm.
Was that game worse than how Vikings fans felt with their blowout to the Bills?
No, because the Vikings they're supposed to be one of the best teams in the league. I mean, Broncos, they're struggling. They're kind of.
Okay. So that's my point. Okay, so that game is a outlier, but it's still they're not a great team, but it's an outlier.
Yeah.
It wasn't as bad as like that.
Correct.
Okay, so we'll throw that game out. So the other 5 games. Chiefs twice, lost by 1 possession in both games.
Yep.
Very competitive, both games.
Yeah.
Should have won the game in Denver. Blew a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter. Chiefs won it. Broncos didn't lose it. Chiefs won it. I'll give them that credit. But 10-point lead in the fourth quarter. Broncos,
I see what you're saying.
in their history, have, I think, not blown that lead maybe more than once.
Right.
Against the Rams, lost by 3 points. Or possession. Another 1 possession. To the Rams. So those are the top 2 teams in both conferences, minus the Saints.
Yeah.
Lost 3 of those games by 1 possession all. In Baltimore, tough game. They ended up losing, I think, by 13. Not a great game. It was week 3, but it was in Baltimore. But, yeah, we'll call that another loss. That's 2 losses. So that and the Jets, for sure. We'll account those. Last week to the Texans. Lose by 2 on a last-second field goal. Bad coaching calls, which is what you especially want with a reset button. So those are 4 very winnable games.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say the Chiefs games, they don't win. They pull off the Rams and you're 5-4. It's a brand new season. You're very in contention for the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's a team that Case Keenum has not played great. I think he's getting more flack than he should. Has not played good by any means. But he's not a bottom 5 quarterback in the NFL. Still has played well when he needs to. Yeah, he's thrown some bad interceptions, but he's played well. He's done some good things. Their running game has been tremendous.
Mm-hmm.
They have one of the top 5 running attacks in the entire NFL. Have 2 rookie running backs that are going to be great for years to come. Philip Lindsay, I don't know if he still does after Saquon's game on Thursday, but before Saquon's game on Thursday, Philip Lindsay had the most rushing yards of any rookie running back. Cortland Sutton's going to be a bright spot in the receiving. Emmanuel Sanders is having a great year. The defense has rebounded from some of their earlier suffers. A lot of talent. Again, are they a playoff team? I don't know. Probably not. But you hit that reset button, and some of those games that got away from them, especially Houston and especially the Chiefs won at home and the Rams won at home, could be a different story.
Yeah, that's true. I see your point. After hearing you, I'm not as against it.
Yeah, I'm not saying reset and they're going to be 9-0, but reset and 5-4 is 5-4 is way better than 3-6.
It's believable. It's believable. Oh, it's a lot better than 3-6.
If we can argue that the Browns 3-6-1 can reset and be a playoff team, we can definitely argue the Broncos 3-6 can reset and be.
I have a question.
Yes.
And I want you to answer completely unbiased, which I know is hard.
It's going to be hard, but I need to hear the question.
In all reality, who would you say has a better roster between the Browns and the Broncos?
Ooh. That's a good question.
Yeah, it's a thinker.
That is a thinker. Because I got to go position by position.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably give the edge to the Browns.
Okay.
And here's why. I think on the defensive side of the ball, when you look at defensive backs, I think Broncos have the best defensive back in Chris Harris.
Sure.
But I think overall, the Browns are a little better.
As a unit? Okay.
As a unit.
Okay.
Linebackers, I think, is kind of a wash.
I would personally give it to the Broncos with their pass rushing, and I think Todd Marshall is a good inside backer.
Todd Davis, Brandon Marshall.
Todd Davis, sorry, yeah, Brandon. That's what I was doing. I was giving them the nickname. I was just talking about.
They both start.
I was talking about the middle of the 3-4.
Yeah.
You don't know my system.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, Brandon Marshall, Todd Davis. I think I would give the nod to the Broncos in that instance. Nothing against the Browns, but
the Browns run a 4-3, right?
Yes.
So it's a little hard to.
Yeah.
Because I consider the linebacking. Yes, technically, linebackers you have Von Miller and Bradley Chubb. So yes, that I would 100% say the Broncos have the edge. 100%.
Sure.
If I'm looking at who are my true linebackers, I'd say it's kind of a wash. With I
see.
think
Yeah,
Todd
yeah.
Davis and Brandon Marshall are good.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the guys in Cleveland are good too. But yeah, defensive line. Again, it's hard just because it's 3-4 versus
Different
4-3.
scheme, sure.
So we'll just say front seven. I think it's pretty close.
Yeah.
I would give the nod to the Broncos at the overall front seven.
I would too.
I think the Broncos have probably a top 10 front seven in the NFL.
I think so. Yeah,
I
in
think
terms
that's
of
fair,
talent.
right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Offensive line, it's Browns. Not even
For sure,
We're
yeah.
not even going to talk about that, especially
Yeah.
with Matt Paradis being gone, Ron Lear being gone, 100%. Receiving core,
I would go Broncos.
it's fluid, but I would
It
probably
is.
go. I would probably go Broncos.
I think the Browns have the bigger star, but when it comes to depth,
yeah, but in reality, is Landry really that much better than Emmanuel Sanders? I think they're pretty.
ooh,
They play very similar.
yeah,
They're same size.
I would still want Jarvis over.
See, I
Emmanuel.
think I would take him in. Maybe that's just the fanboy in me.
I think that's a little homer coming out.
But I mean, you look at their year they're having. Emmanuel's having a better year.
Yeah, and I mean, before the DT trade, definitely Denver.
Yeah.
But since then, I mean, but you still got Deshaun Hamilton. You still have Cortland Sutton. But you throw Njoku in there. I mean, tight end position is definitely the balance is over at Cleveland. So yeah, receiving core, you might be right. It might be kind of a yeah.
Quarterback, I'd go Baker
For
sure.
sure. You can't not.
100%. Yeah. Even if we're saying like today, right now, like as of right now, maybe you could argue case. I'm not saying I'm going to. Maybe you could. Long term, it's not even a question.
Yeah, I mean, who would you rather have? You'd rather have Baker.
You'd rather have Baker. Yeah. Running back though, I love Nick Chubb, but Royce Freeman and Philip Lindsay, they've looked good too.
They have. Yeah, I mean, and you got to throw Duke Johnson in there for Cleveland.
Yeah. I mean, so to your point, and you're asking me, and I feel like you weren't maybe asking me this for this reason, but I'm going to take it as you were. If I'm a coach looking at these two teams, and I'm trying to pick, okay, if I'm going based on roster, to me they're a wash. I'm picking strictly Cleveland because of Baker Mayfield.
He seems to be the tipping point, doesn't he?
You have your franchise quarterback. The Broncos don't. That's point in case. And I no pun intended with case, but whether he's the bridge for next year. He's only on a 2-year contract. Maybe they re-sign him to a couple more years. He's not the long-term answer, whereas Baker's going to be there for 10, 15 years.
And I'm so glad we got to where we are right now because going into this question, I even had in my head the only difference in the rosters is Baker Mayfield.
That's it.
That is the only damn difference.
Yeah.
So.
And look at the records.
Yeah.
3-6, 3-6-1.
Yeah.
Both of them have questionable coaching.
Yep, and to circle us all back around to where we started, if you hit that reset button, the Broncos really are just one piece away. I hate to say it, but I think the line needs to get better.
Say that again, because you were against saying that like 2 weeks ago. Say it one more time.
I was against it, but the Broncos truly are one piece away from being on the right path. I don't think they're one piece away from being a Super Bowl contender, but they're one piece away. If they can get their legit franchise quarterback, because, I mean, Peyton obviously wasn't going to be a franchise quarterback. You missed the ball on Paxton Lynch. Obviously, Chad Kelly was a huge disappointment. Not that he was ever really but there were some rumblings of like, hey, this kid has potential.
And he did if he didn't screw up off the field. But
and then Simeon, he had his flashes, but you guys haven't had a franchise quarterback since John Elway.
Yeah, I mean they drafted Jay Cutler, but then
he was, he never really had it in Denver.
Yeah, I'll say this and then let's move on. Jay Cutler, I don't think necessarily would have been a tremendous franchise quarterback, but had he stayed in Denver, if you remember, he got traded because Josh McDaniels came into town and ripped apart that roster. They got a rocky relationship, traded him away. He went to Chicago, had like 3 different offensive coordinators in 4 years, could never really get back on track. Had he stayed in Denver and had consistency, I think he could have been a franchise quarterback. Maybe not he could have been like an Andy Dalton.
Yeah, that's a pretty good comparison.
Yeah, I'm not saying like anything great, but he could have been. But anyway, didn't happen. So, yes, they have not really had one since John Elway. They had Jake Plummer for a few years, but then they drafted Jay Cutler, and so that whole rumbling happened. So
I was really hating on the Broncos. I think it was because we just played them 2 games really close, and I was like, you know what? Screw the Broncos. I've been hearing all this blabber, blah, 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 blah. So I was really hating on the Broncos. But in all reality, they are really close. I think they're still a few years away from because there's a lot of pieces they have to change. Coach, quarterback, O-line, but
yeah, I think it's safe that their coach will be changed this year.
Yeah, if they make the right choices in the next year or two, they're on the right path to getting back to the division race.
Yeah, and Bronco fans, if you're listening, Justin Herbert is not that answer. I'm just gonna say that.
No, not only will you not get a chance at him, he's not.
We don't want a chance at him.
No, he's not the franchise quarterback.
No, I want to break down more film before I compare him, but
yeah,
I'm staying away. He might not even be eligible. He might stay at Oregon another year.
I will say this: this is not a good year to be a quarterback needy team.
Not at all. Yeah.
No, not a good year.
No.
But anyway, let's move on.
Yeah. So you have one more?
No, I think we're good.
Okay.
We each did 3.
Okay. Cool. Who was your third one?
Saints, Jaguars, Falcons.
That's right. Okay. And I had Browns, Seahawks, and
Broncos.
Yeah. Another team I was going to at least bring up was the Niners, and that was strictly because of injuries.
Yeah, Jimmy G, yeah.
Yeah, just reset the button and hopefully be healthy.
Yeah.
That was about it.
And looking back on it, it's really a stupid choice, but I have the Raiders on there. What are they resetting? I guess, and Khalil Mack. That was my thought process was Mack, but that doesn't matter. The Raiders are the biggest. Maybe
have one more win.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. Not even maybe. They're not going to win a game. If they do, I'm wrong. But
that team's a freaking joke. Which I'm happy about being in our division.
Right.
And the best thing is we called it.
We did.
We were like, the Raiders are going to be a dumpster fire this year.
Yeah. John Gruden is playing for Vegas, man. They're going to have a lot of high picks in 2019. They're going to have probably higher picks in 2020.
Yeah.
They're playing for Vegas, man. If you come in with 2 draft classes of, like, let's say 5 first-round rookies, or first-round players, I should say, into Vegas, and you're going to, some high-profile, that's what he's doing.
Yeah, they're the 2014 Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
Let's just allocate draft picks.
Derek Carr will be traded away this offseason. Maybe he'll end up in Jacksonville. I don't know. But Derek Carr will be traded away. Jordy Nelson, I think he's already retired. Marshawn Lynch will retire. That team is just being stripped down to the frame, and John Gruden's going to spend the rest of his 10-year career or 10-year contract trying to build it back up. And it's going to be kind of fun to see if he does it or not. But right now, that is the worst team in the NFL.
Yeah. I mean, they're truly giving him the reins, I think, to be like, all right, well, let's see what you want to do.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think they were a playoff team 2 years ago, but i.e. the Buffalo Bills last year. But
yep. Well, Buffalo, that's a whole
it's a
rabbit hole.
That's a whole different debacle. Yeah,
yep.
We won't go into that. Should we get into our different from football, but our top 5 animated films of all time?
Let's do it.
Love it. Okay, I'm gonna let you start. We're actually ranking these, so 5 through 1, legit rankings. I'll let you start.
Okay, my number 5, Megamind.
Megamind. Okay.
Yeah. Stars Will Ferrell, Brad Pitt, Tina Fey, Jonah Hill.
Megamind. Dude, I didn't even think about that. That's a great freaking movie.
It is it's underrated because I don't think it has that name behind it. It doesn't have Disney. It doesn't have Pixar. It doesn't have DreamWorks.
Which is crazy.
No, it is a I'm sorry. It is a DreamWorks. Yeah,
but it's crazy because that cast.
Oh, the cast is so high profile. Yeah. I mean, even down to like I think Patton Oswalt is in it.
I think you're right.
He plays the little whatever minion or whatever. Big names, names that people know, and the storyline is really good. What if the bad guy wins? What happens next?
Yeah,
such a good movie, and I love that movie. It's so underrated. Not a lot of people know about it, or or they remember hearing about it, and they just never really gave it a chance or whatever. But man, give the movie a chance, and it's gonna get onto your list. That movie, you just have to watch it because if you watch it, you're gonna fall in love with it, man. Just give it a chance. Megamind, it's awesome.
Yeah, that's a good one. I didn't even think about that one. That is a good one. Yeah. Some of his little monologues, which he actually in the movie says, like, oh, monologue. Like, he'll look at the camera, Will Ferrell, who plays Megamind, and he's like, monologue, and he'll go on this little...
Yeah.
Just tremendous.
And he mispronounces stuff, and it's so perfect. And again, the storyline is really good. The storyline is a really good one.
Well, nowadays, animated films, they have tremendous writing.
They do.
So, I mean, that'd be fun business to get into.
It would be.
That's a good one. My 5 is, I had to go with Frozen.
Okay, that's a good one.
I know it's so probably overplayed and hyped up, but it's a great story. You got 2 sisters that live in like a dream castle, and then one of them's getting these bad powers or whatever, and she ends up freezing everything, and it's great. I got that song playing in the background.
It is a good dude. I love Frozen.
Yeah.
I really do like it. And if you say you don't, you're lying.
Right? Well, especially around Christmas time.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since we live in LA.
Yeah.
If you want to get a little cold, throw like the fireplace TV on if you have 2 TVs, so you can watch the movie and have the fireplace TV on. Yeah, throw a little hot cocoa and then watch a little Frozen. And if you have kids, I mean, this song's great.
Oh, the kids know it better than you do.
Yeah, I have it playing on YouTube right now. It has, guess how many views this song has?
2.5 million.
2.5 million is your guess?
Yeah.
1.6 billion.
Jeez. I just meant this month. No, I'm just kidding.
Probably has that many this month.
That's unreal.
Yeah, 1.6 billion.
Wow.
So, Frozen.
Come to think of it, how old is that movie? Is it going on 10 years?
No. 2014, I think.
Oh, is that it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's probably about 3 or 4, give or take. Which is crazy. It's been that long, but.
Yeah. That's a good one, though. Yeah. I really do like that movie.
I love Frozen. It's just good.
It is.
All of those Pixar movies have great musicals.
Well, that's not Pixar.
You're right. It's not Pixar, actually.
It's actually Disney. Straight up Disney.
Yeah. And they're Olaf. I love Olaf. Played by Josh Gad.
Yep. Yeah.
Tremendous.
That's a good casting, too. That's a good cast, too.
Yeah. Tremendous.
Kristen Bell and can't think of some
Kristen
of the
Bell's
others.
in
But
it
yeah.
too,
Yep.
So, all right. Your fourth.
My fourth, it's a pretty recent one, and a sequel is coming out soon. I'm not sure. I think it's June of 19. Don't quote me on that. But the original, Secret Life of Pets.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Being a dog owner myself, we own a couple dogs, and one of them actually has some Jack Russell Terrier in him, so he looks a lot like the main character, Jack Russell Terrier. And we kind of like to think that we have 2 dogs. We have Jordy and we have Geller. When we got together, Jordy was her dog, and then so we kind of became a family of 3. And it was us for quite a while, for quite a few months, and then we moved into a bigger place, and we got Geller. So it's a relatable movie because we have a couple dogs. One of our dogs really resembles the dog from the movie, and we were a family of 3. We kind of had our thing going. Then we brought in this other moving part, this other dog, this new dog that everybody has to get used to, and it really reminded us of what may happen when we're away from the house. So
those that don't know is Life of Pets. I've seen it, but it's a family that brings in. You can explain that briefly.
Sure, absolutely, yeah.
I know it's a lesser known animated film than some of the ones on our list.
Sure, not a problem. So it's about this girl and her dog. It's just them 2 living in New York, and they have an apartment together, and they have a great routine. He's been there his whole life since he was a puppy, and it's just been them 2. And all of a sudden, she adopts this new dog out of the blue, brings him in, completely disrupts everything in this dog's life, and they end up going on this big adventure. Yada yada yada. Yeah, animate. Any movie you've ever seen. But it really is a cute movie and a good concept and a good idea, and it shows you what may happen behind closed doors when you're away and it's just your pet there. And it puts a funny spin on some things, but it does have a lot of actually good lessons in it, and and it just really hit home with me. So I really do love that movie.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like it.
Thank you.
I like how your list is a little more off color than the rest.
Well, thank you.
So my number 4. Do you remember the movie Mulan?
Do I remember the movie Mulan?
Mulan, probably one of my favorites. So I have the joy of knowing my list, so I can play some background stuff while I'm talking about it. But Mulan's a character that she's a female in a very proud family in China, and they're going to war with the Mongolians, and there's no sons, so she basically dresses like a boy to join the military and then go and fight for her country. And it's kind of a funny / not funny, dramatic rendition of kind of her journey into the military, and then she ends up falling in love with her commander, but then he thinks she's a boy. And great soundtrack. This was one of my favorite songs.
Oh, it's one of the best songs from the movie. Did you know that Mulan's based on a true story?
I didn't know that. I kind of assumed maybe it was, but I did not know that.
And can we agree? Now, this is my opinion. It may not be yours, but I think you might agree that Eddie Murphy made that movie.
Oh, so before you even said that, I was gonna, when you were saying "Can we agree?" I was gonna bring up Mushu, played by Eddie Murphy, is by far what makes the movie what it is.
Okay, this is what it reminds me of. So Mushu, Eddie Murphy, and Mulan is the equivalent to Robin Williams as the genie in Aladdin.
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
Makes that movie
100%. Yeah, that's a great comparison.
Great
comparison.
Thank you.
And he probably doesn't get the same credit as Robin Williams does.
I don't think he does.
Which Robin Williams should get that credit, but Eddie Murphy should probably be a little more recognized for his role as Mushu.
I think part of that is because Mulan was not as big as a hit.
Yeah.
Of Aladdin.
Yeah, was not as recognizable a household name as Aladdin. Didn't have the history of it, but
of course.
Yeah, I like that. It's a good point. So,
Thank you.
Mulan, my number 4 on my top animated films.
I like it. Very good one. That you can't go wrong with a Disney classic.
Yeah, I believe it's playing on Netflix now. I could be wrong.
It is. It definitely is.
No.
Trust me. So my number 3, I went Monsters Incorporated.
The original or the University?
The original. I love it. Monsters University would probably be 6 or 7. But yeah, Monsters Incorporated, the original, came out in the year 2000, I believe. Possibly 2002. I'm not really sure. It was early 2000, but
yeah,
absolutely love that movie. Another great cast. John Goodman. It's not Billy Crystal.
Billy Crystal.
Is it Billy Crystal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mike Wazowski. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Sorry. Then it is Billy Crystal.
Yeah.
Really, really good cast. Talk about a creative idea. You know.
Oh yeah.
The monster living in the closet is almost. It is. It's a cliche at this point in time.
Mm-hmm.
But for someone to create literally an entire world, an entire movie, an entire movement strictly based on the idea of a monster living in your closet, man, just those are some of the most creative minds in the world. In the different, to make them, they're not scaring people. They're not scaring kids out of evilness. They're not doing it out of like just to do it. They do it because that's their source of power. That's all they know. So they do it because they have to, not because they want to. Mm-hmm. And it's that little underlying tone of like, hey, monsters are just people trying to make it too. And it's like, Pixar, what are you doing to me?
Yeah.
Like this is, and when that came out, I was a kid and I really thought it was cool. But growing up with it and getting older, getting more mature and having a job and knowing what that grind looks like and doing what you need to do for your family to survive. It's like it's cool. That movie is so good, and there's so many lessons to be learned from it at any age. And it's and don't the tone of prejudice can even be found in it. And there's just so many good things about that movie, and it's so much more than just a cartoon. It's an actual film, and I love it. I can't get enough of it.
Yeah. No, I think what's even better about that is the whole film is about them using scaring to do their source. Mm-hmm. And then in classic Disney Pixar form, at the end of the movie, they realize laughter actually creates more power, more energy for their city. So then they change their tactics, and all because of Mike Wazowski and Sully being able to save the day and show them that that's the beauty of it. So, yeah, great movie, classic. What I love about any Pixar movie is just the uniqueness, like the writing that goes into it,
the originality,
which kind of leads into my third, which I had a tie. That's not fair, I know.
Okay, hey, I'm down. I'm always down to hear more animated movies.
Yeah, they're both C's, but I had Coco and Cars.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't decide between the two. Let's go first with the originality. Cars.
Okay.
So original.
Yes.
I love it. I don't know if they stole the. Do you remember the gas station? I want to say it was either 76 or BP Phyllis, but they had way back in the 90s. They had they'd give cars away, like little tiny, not Hot Wheels, but little cars. It was what gas station did it. So I don't know if Disney not necessarily stole that, but used that idea, or if they came up on their own. But either way, we'll just call it original. But having a movie dedicated to cars that played a humanistic role, played that still kind of almost like they kind of built on Toy Story, like someone that was famous or well loved at one point, and then left behind for a new, brighter past, new, brighter future, which in reality was a highway, not Route 66 anymore, going through their town.
Yeah.
But using that, and as a viewer or as someone in the theater, just sitting there and you're connecting with these animated cars and you're feeling like emotion and almost like sadness and happiness and laughter, and you go through all these different emotional things, like with Lightning McQueen, and then you see like just how the town is hurt, and then when him and I'm drawing the blank on the Porsche who they end up having like a love connection, Sally, yeah. And you see that like disconnect, and you're like, what are you doing? Like, it's just, that is great writing. It's great filmography, and as a kid, it's just fun to watch. So I know kids love cars. Like, how can you not love Lightning McQueen? Mater might be the best animated character of all time.
Possibly.
Yeah.
He has an argument for it.
Yeah, Touche Larry the Cable Guy for epitomizing that role.
Yep. Tow Mater.
Living in that role and making it even, I mean, Mater, Woody, and Buzz Lightyear, those are probably maybe the three arguably
most iconic
Pixar animated characters of all time. Yeah.
Yeah, very true.
And then Coco, I won't go into too much, but Coco is just an awesome story. Phenomenal soundtrack. You've seen Coco, correct?
I have, yes.
Okay. Great soundtrack. I love how they play with the Day of the Dead and kind of use it in a... The Day of the Dead is a very... In American culture, it's not very well known. My wife being Mexican and knowing a little bit more of the culture, certainly not as much as I should, but knowing a little bit more, it's cool how they kind of dove into that and showed kind of, not saying that's what happens, obviously, but dove into kind of like the spirit world almost, and the connection that and the pride that families have with their ancestors and kind of living to that, and they just made a beautiful movie with the soundtrack and the villain who was not who they thought they was, and yeah, great movie. Coco was awesome.
Yeah, you know, I'm going to piggyback off you and go on I'm going to get on a soapbox just for a minute.
Do it.
Sorry, I don't do it often, but that movie is the perfect example of don't be afraid to get outside of your box. So for me, seeing the previews, knowing kind of what the story was kind of about, I was like, you know, I don't care. I don't want to see it. I won't connect with it. I have no idea what's going on. I don't really care what the story's about.
Not your repertoire.
Exactly, yeah. It was outside of my box, outside of my comfort zone. So I never saw it. Any other time, Pixar movie, animated movie, I'm going to the theater to see it. I didn't go into the theater to see this one. We waited till it was on Redbox. We rented it one night. Blew me absolutely away. Man, that movie, I didn't have it on my list, but it's in my top 10. That is a great Pixar movie. Right. I completely underestimated what that movie was going to be. And for anybody out there, if there's a movie, especially a Pixar movie, if you think, you know what, no, I'm not going to relate. No, it's not going to hit me. I'm not going to connect with it. Do it, because Coco, it's so much more than just an animated film. That movie, honestly, it taught me a lot. So I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, never trust your own instincts when it comes to like stuff like that, because get outside your comfort zone and you're gonna learn something.
Yeah.
If that's the most important thing. If you get outside your comfort zone, you're gonna go learn something new that you never thought even existed, and your whole life's gonna change just from that one decision.
Yeah.
So,
well, and Ben kept saying in our interview, just get off the couch and go experience something. So
exactly.
You went to the movies and saw it, and yeah, Coco is a great family film. Puts family first,
yes.
Shows the dynamics, and yeah, if you don't know that culture, you kind of learn a lot too, which is always fun.
I love it.
So you're number 2, my friend.
My number 2, Shrek.
Shrek. Yeah, good one.
So my 1 and 2 respectively, probably the top 2 movies I can quote the best. Shrek being number 2, my number 1 being number 1. But Shrek, and again, what a great cast. Eddie Murphy, again.
Mm-hmm. Which he stole the show.
Again.
Yeah, Donkey.
Mike Myers, and you have Cameron Diaz, and the original, which I'm talking about, John Lithgow was in it.
Yeah, Antonio Banderas is Puss in Boots.
He makes an appearance in the sequels, yeah. Yeah, Shrek is such a good movie, and it was, for me, one of those first movies that kind of blurred the lines of kiddie cartoon versus adult animation. You know, I mean, there's something for everybody. You know, it's an animated film that your kid's gonna love, but you as a parent will not dread that hour and a half, 2 hours, however long you're in the theater, because it's a movie for you too. There's stuff in there for you.
Yeah, there's some crude humor in there.
There is.
Yeah.
And I feel like I could be wrong, but I feel like that was the first of its kind to kind of do that, to kind of set that precedent of like, you know what, we're gonna put stuff in there that the kids won't really understand, but as an adult, you're gonna laugh at.
Yeah.
So, you know, for me, Shrek is a very iconic film because it was kind of a trailblazing film, if you will, because now you see that a lot in animated films. It has something for the kids and it has something for the adults too that doesn't make it obvious that the kids shouldn't, you know.
Yeah.
So for me, Shrek kind of said a lot of the things we see in today's films.
Yeah. Yeah, Shrek's a good one. I like that. My number 2 is The Incredibles. Obviously, my list is heavy Pixar, as you can tell. Mine is love The Incredibles. Incredibles 2 just came out kind of recently, but another kind of interesting film that was a little, not necessarily different, but I mean, I feel like there's been so many superhero movies, but there hasn't really been a superhero animated film.
Yeah, you're right.
Like other than The Incredibles, and they took kind of a different spin with it. Instead of, obviously, they couldn't use the Marvel characters or the DC comics or anything like that, so they. You know, that when I picture The Incredibles, I picture like real comic book characters almost. So, yeah, I love The Incredibles, Mr. Incredible. The voices that played him, Dash, just how they have the family dynamic, and yet they're still like battling crime.
Have you seen the second one?
I haven't seen the second one yet, which is, I know, crazy.
It is, yeah.
Because I love The Incredibles, and I haven't seen it.
Yeah, we saw the second one in theater. We recently just bought it. But the second one picks up literally right after the first one leaves off. So
that's what I heard.
The Mole Man or whatever. But it's great. It continues the story, the originality of it. It's you need to see it.
Yeah, I'll see it, yeah.
Yeah, if you're an Incredibles 1 fan, you will be a huge fan of Incredibles 2.
Yeah, I love it. So, yeah, we'll be seeing it. I can't believe we
Movie night at the Graf House.
There you go.
Die Rudes Uninvited.
Love it. Love it. There you go. All right, sir, you're number 1.
My number 1, I feel like we have the same one, Toy Story.
We sure do have the same
I
one.
knew it.
How can you have an animated list and not have Toy Story as number 1?
You can't.
You can't.
They don't exist.
Yeah, you can't have great animation without Toy Story.
Toy Story, man.
So say your piece, I'll say mine. And,
all right. So Toy Story, the original, the OG, the very first Pixar movie ever, very first computer animated movie to hit the theaters.
Yeah, the first bouncing lamp.
Yes.
Dink, that landed on the eye.
Yep.
Toy Story.
And talking about needing to hit a home run and hitting a grand slam. Toy Story set so many precedents, man. It set the damn standard out of the gate. So many iconic characters. Woody, Buzz, Slinky Dog,
Rex,
Mr.
Potato Head,
Piggy Bank. I hear she's making a comeback in the 4th.
Jesse,
Little Bo Peep.
Yeah,
and then the newer ones, Jesse, Bullseye. You know, all of them.
Yeah.
Every single one of them.
You even have the Army Men. You have the monkeys.
Yeah, so many quotes, and I love how they incorporated real life toys that we grew up with.
Yeah.
In addition to the main characters, Etch and Sketch. Yeah, man. And it's so great to think about the idea of what happens when you walk away. Do your toys come to life? You know, and how this connection they build with you, because you know you have that connection with them, but to kind of animate those. And personify those characters and those toys into something that they care about you just as much as you care about them. It's really a cool thing. And Toy Story, especially for our generation, it meant a lot to us. We grew up with that movie.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm playing the You've Got a Friend in Me, which is kind of the theme of the whole series.
Mm-hmm.
And it's showing the video, and just for one, the animation. I think this movie came out, 95?
95, yeah.
95. See, this animation is unreal from 95.
Yeah, to think it was 23 years ago.
Yeah, unbelievable, first of all. Storyline, we can go on that. That's just their incredible storyline. But just knowing, I mean, we were 5, 6, whatever we were when this movie came out. And I remember going to bed just hoping I'd wake up, and where I left the toy, I hoped it was somewhere else.
Yep.
Just to know, like, oh, they do come alive. And I remember just hoping, going to bed, like, almost praying, like, please let my whatever toy I was into that day, like, let it move so I can see. So either they were really good and they just always got back to their place in time, like they never were able to do in the movie very well.
Right. But always seemed to fool the humans.
Always seemed to fool Andy, but I was onto it. But yeah, they must have known I was smarter. They were pretty good at getting back to their rightful places. But yeah, and then I think what's been great about the Toy Story franchise is, one, the movie's great. Two, the iconicness of the characters. So I'm 28 years old. I have a Woody doll in my room. Not one that I sleep with. Let's not be weird about it. But, a collector's item. Like, it's something I got for Christmas a while back, and I've kept. It's a Woody doll. When I was growing up, I was the oldest, and my brother, and then my sisters. So we had Woody, Buzz, and Jesse. So it just made sense.
Nice.
So we had that growing up. But then, so the iconicness of the characters, the longevity of continuing those voices. So we are now 23 years later, like you said, and they just announced Toy Story 4, and we're having Tom Hanks, Tim Allen, the same characters in that movie.
Yeah.
It's longevity.
Unfortunately, I don't. Gotta say it. My all-time favorite comedian, Don Rickles, will not be a part of Toy Story 4. He sadly passed away a couple years ago. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, he played the Mr. Potato Head character. So it'll be interesting to see how they tie that in.
Yeah, it will be. Yeah, and I think they'll do it in a way. I have no idea. This is no insider information, but I don't think they'll just have someone else play him. I think they'll almost have him like he moved on or something. Yeah. I think he was too iconic. Miss Potato had such a large role in that movie.
And Don Rickles is such a memorable voice.
Yeah. You can't replicate that voice.
No.
So, yeah, Toy Story, I don't really need to say much more. Did you have any, like, 1A, 1Bs on your list? We don't even talk about, just list them?
No, I didn't. The only thing I would add is that Cars, definitely, yeah, I agree. I love Cars. I would probably, if I had to, it'd probably be 5B. But no, that's the only addition I would have. I mean, there's so many more out there, but I mean, yeah, I think we hit a pretty good list, and we only had one repeat.
Yeah, and it was number one.
It was number one.
Fair, which as it should be. As it should be.
Perfect. Tighten the bow. Ship it.
That's right.
Let's go.
Amazon Prime, ship it 2 days. I did have 3 on there just as backups. I'm happy with my 5, but I had Lego Movie. Have you seen Lego Movie?
You know what? It's one of those I couldn't finish. I just could not get into it.
Okay. I enjoyed it, but yeah, understandable. Finding Nemo.
Another great one.
Love Finding Nemo.
Such a good one.
And then Kung Fu Panda. Did you ever see Kung Fu Panda?
Was not a fan.
Wasn't a fan?
Not a fan.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Well, at least our 5, we were in very agreement.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All right. Finally, okay, we're gonna move into our last segment. Crowd favorite NFL casting call. Now, this is where we take a movie or a TV show or a self-written script. We take the characters and we pick NFL players or personnel who would best portray those characters. So this week we're doing Forrest Gump.
Yes, sir, we are. My all-time favorite film.
Great movie starring Tom Hanks. Did he win an Academy Award for it?
He sure did. That was his second in a row because the year prior he won it for Philadelphia.
That's right. Okay.
Yep.
Another great movie.
Yes.
It was a tougher film a little bit for NFL casting call just because there's really not a lot of big characters. There's we picked 4.
Yep.
And those were literally the 4 main characters. And then it's a lot of like kind of cameos and extras and people with 10 lines or 4 lines or 3 lines. So a little bit tougher, but I mean, we chose the obvious ones: Forrest, Lieutenant Dan, Jenny, and Bubba.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll let you start it off. I don't know, whoever you want to start with.
Okay.
Go for it.
I'm going to start with Jenny.
Okay.
I went with, I feel like I've picked him before in casting call, but, I think he works for this role too, but Le'Veon Bell.
Okay. I'm curious to hear your explanation.
So, Forrest Gump is in love with Jenny. Grew up with Jenny. They grew up together. They became, they just kind of saw each other hit their strides and become the people they were supposed to become. Well, for me, that's how kind of the Steelers and Bell relationship has been. Bell grew up within the organization, became one of the best in the league, but, man, you never know if he's going to show up. And if he does, it's kind of random. out of the blue. Hey, I'm back. I'll play.
Well, and as of yesterday, he's not showing up.
As of yesterday, he's not going to show up. So
No.
we've seen Le'Veon Bell in a Pittsburgh Steelers uniform for the very last time. But for this instance, I just think Jenny kind of does her own thing, tries to find who she is, tries to find her value, travels around a lot, but she keeps coming back home. But then she leaves. Comes back home. Then she leaves. And kind of teases, to a degree, Forrest. And I feel like this season, Le'Veon's kind of teased the Steelers organization about when or if he's going to come back, which now we know he's not. But, he's tweeted out, bye Miami. It's been a great time, whatever. And then he, playing pickup basketball in Pittsburgh, So there's just always been that kind of like, is he going to show up? And if he does, how long is he going to be here? So that's kind of where I went with the whole Le'Veon Bell casting as Jenny.
Kind of like that scene in Forrest Gump when they're in D.C. and he finds her, but she's like with some other guy.
Yeah.
It's in the 60s or 70s. They're doing a bunch of drugs. And so she's like there, but she's not really there.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like that. I'll just start with Forrest.
Okay.
I went with someone that's he's always been an underdog story.
Okay.
He's not in the league anymore. But he's had to fight for everything he's attained to get to where he is. He's had a few really heroic moments, kind of like Forrest had. Doug Flutie.
Okay.
So, he had the Boston College Hail Mary. Drafted by – was he drafted by Buffalo or San Diego?
I thought he was drafted by the Patriots.
Or maybe he's the Patriots. I know he played for all three of those organizations. I think you're right. I know he played prominently with Buffalo and the Chargers when they were in San Diego.
Yeah.
But anyway, so he really had to always fight for what he had coming. Was never really given a shot ever, no matter where he was. Even when he had success, people still doubted him, kind of like Forrest through the entire movie. He kind of was seen as dumb or just not really had the ability to be successful, and yet everything he did, he kind of surprised people. He shocked the naysayers, if you will, and Doug Flutie kind of did that his whole career. When he came to Buffalo and he supplanted Rob Johnson as the Rob Johnson was the high-paid quarterback, good-looking, tall. He was like 6'4", and all of a sudden Doug Flutie came in, took his job, and led the Buffalo Bills to the playoffs. He went to San Diego, had a good career down in San Diego, and he was just an underdog story. He was the Forrest Gump of the NFL.
Yeah, I like that. I can dig it.
There you go.
Doug Flutie, Forrest Gump. That's not a bad one.
Yeah.
So I'll go ahead and do my Forrest. I went with kind of the obvious, easy pick here, Tyreek Hill.
Okay.
Not saying that Tyreek's dumb, because he's not.
Just because he likes running.
He's the fastest son-of-a-bitch I've ever seen.
Wow.
And Tyreek went to college at West Alabama, and Forrest obviously grew up in Alabama, went to Alabama, played for Bear Bryant, whatever. Mm-hmm. But there's just that iconic scene in Forrest Gump where they're on the sideline and Bear Bryant says, "That must be the stupidest or the dumbest son of a bitch I've ever seen, but he sure is fast." It kind of reminds me of Tyreek, but instead of dumb, that's the craziest son of a bitch I've ever seen, but he sure is fast. Just kind of brings me back to that celebration he had in the stands last week when he got in the stands and controlled the camera. And,
oh man.
The coach of me was like, "Son, don't do that," but the fan of me was like, "Yeah, that was great. I love it." But for me, yeah, Forrest Gump, Tyreek Hill, all they do is run, and they're the fastest around and the fastest on the team. So
I like it. Good comparison. They like running.
They do.
They like running. So let's do Lieutenant Dan.
Okay.
Lieutenant Dan was someone that was in the beginning of the film a bit cocky.
Yeah.
A bit misunderstood. A lot of potential, a lot of talent. But he went to the war, lost his legs, was kind of brought back down to earth, had to realize, like, humbled almost, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Had to kind of reevaluate his situation, his life. Forrest was kind of that factor for him to help him kind of like realize what he really needed to do. Ryan Leaf.
Okay.
Plays that role for me. Came out of Washington State.
Yeah.
Guns blazing, same draft class as Peyton Manning. He was arguably 1 or 2 best quarterback in that draft. He went 2 to San Diego. Couldn't handle the pressure, cussing out, media guys. Arguably, here so did drugs. Just couldn't be successful in the field. Ended up flaming out of the league in 3 years. Was considered a bust. So he was that cocky individual that was not afraid to tell anyone what he wanted to say. And then he got kind of brought back down to earth into spending time in rehabilitation. I think he spent a little time in jail. And then now he's kind of rehabilitated his life and found kind of a new meaning, just kind of like how Lieutenant Dan in the movie kind of came around. You see it in the movie, all of a sudden he's like, almost like that last scene when he comes in with his new girlfriend or wife, it's almost like he's like an angel being like brought in. Like he's just this different being. Like he's a reformed human being, different man, and has really transformed his life. And I think Ryan Leaf has done almost that exact same path.
I like it. I like that. That's good.
There you go.
I like that a lot. I like that. That's
so
good.
We're getting deep in there.
We are. Man, we are. So
Yeah.
I'm going to bring us back up to the shallows.
Bring us back.
So my Lieutenant Dan, I went with James Conner.
Okay.
And my whole reason for this is because, kind of like you said, when we see Lieutenant Dan walking in with his fiance, his new bride-to-be,
Yeah.
at Forrest's wedding, he has new legs. So James Conner, the Pittsburgh Steelers had kind of lost their legs. They lost Le'Veon Bell. He wasn't there. They couldn't rely on him. What they knew, everything they relied on, their legs. Le'Veon Bell, he was the staple. He's no longer there. You bring in James Conner, just like that famous Forrest line, "Look, Jenny, new legs." The Steelers found their new legs in James Conner.
Get this guy a casting gig.
Right? Thank you. So James Conner is the Pittsburgh Steelers' new legs, and he's taking them to places that they thought they could no longer get to because they lost their legs. So yeah, that's pretty much the entire reason for me. James Conner provides those new legs for the Pittsburgh Steelers that was lost with Le'Veon Bell.
That's great.
Thank you.
I love that. I love how. What I love about this segment so much is how differently we both approach it. I feel like you always kind of tie all yours in together, which is great. And I take just random players and kind of build this picture about them. It's great. I love it.
It is.
It's beautiful.
This is gold.
Yeah, beautiful. So I'll do. Who do I want to do now? My Jenny or my Bubba? They're both very, very random. We'll do Bubba.
Okay.
We'll do Bubba.
Let's do it.
So Bubba was a character that Forrest Gump met at the war. They became best friends.
Yep.
And then Bubba obviously went on to create Bubba Gump Shrimp Company. And what he was most famous for was his love for shrimp. That's all he talked about, right?
Yep.
In the whole movie, he talked about Shrimp Company. Talked about all this shrimp. So who I have playing Bubba is Carl Nassib,
Okay.
who seems to love the finance business, according to HBO, according to what every NFL reporter likes to talk about. All I talk about Carl Nassib is about how he's a finance guru. It's funny how 2 scenes in Hard Knocks, that becomes your repertoire, but hey, that's what we're going to roll with. So he's a guy that kind of was known for one thing. Bubba was at the war. He was a veteran. He did his time. Carl Nassib's a warrior. He's a defensive lineman, sacks quarterbacks, was released by the Browns and with the Buccaneers. But what's he known for? Bubba's known for his shrimp, his love for shrimp. Carl Nassib's, he's known for his finance. Apparently the guy knows how to trade stocks and build your portfolio. So, Carl Nassib, play Bubba.
I like it. I can dig it. I can go with it.
There you go.
So I'll finish with my Bubba, and then we can hear your Jenny. I'm really
Okay.
excited to hear who your Jenny is. So my Bubba, and hear me out. I went Alex Smith.
Okay.
So in the movie, Bubba doesn't make it home. He dies on not the beaches, but he dies in Vietnam. To me, the entire audience fell in love with Bubba. You kind of had a bad feeling of how it might end for Bubba, but you didn't really know how it was going to end. But when it did, it's like, man, I kind of saw that coming, and I kind of felt like it's best for the movie, for the plot, for this whole engine of a film to keep going. Even though it's right for the plot, it's really hard to see, and I hate for it to happen, but it needs to.
Mm-hmm.
That's Alex Smith in the Kansas City Chiefs. You, as a Chiefs fan, I really hated to see Alex go, and I think a lot of fans hated to see Alex go because he meant a lot to us in the short amount of time he was here, just like Bubba in the film. But we knew it was time for Alex to go. It was time for the Chiefs organization to move on from Alex and to kind of see what else is out there. What can we do without him? So to me, Alex Smith is Bubba. Forrest learned a lot from Bubba in a short amount of time, and they formed a really close, tight-knit bond. But when it was time to say goodbye, as hard as it was, man, we knew that we had something really important to take care of, and Forrest went on his own and accomplished a lot. So to me, that's the perfect symbolism of Alex Smith and the Chiefs organization, man. You taught us a lot. You provided a lot for us, but when it's time to cut ties, we're gonna go off on our own. We're gonna accomplish a lot of things, but we'll never forget what you meant to us. So yeah, Alex Smith, Bubba.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like that.
Thank you.
All right, so my Jenny.
Your Oh, I'm excited.
So Jenny in the film was always someone that, for sure, Forrest held, in the audience I think held to a higher standard.
Yeah.
There was expectations there that I think so Forrest always saw her as almost like a better being than everyone. He confided her in everything, saw her as his go-to, if you will, his number one receiver, if you will, if we're tying this to football.
Mm-hmm.
The audience sees her almost as this person that's really going to not only make Forrest's life better, but she's going to make the people around her life better. Right?
Okay.
Am I off rocker there? That's kind of, I think, how the audience portrays her.
Yeah.
And yet she doesn't. She continually fails at that. She can't live up to those expectations.
Okay.
Whether it be drug abuse or sexual abuse
Mm-hmm.
or bad relationships or whatever it may be, she continually falters.
Okay.
Continually falters. And then finally at the end, she kind of like gets back on track a little bit there.
Yeah.
Josh Gordon.
Okay.
Here's a guy in the NFL that has always had that huge ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
The talent's there. We see him run the routes. We see him catch the balls. Every year we're like, when's this guy going to break out? And then falters. When is he going to make his quarterback better? When is he going to make the guys around him better? Something with drugs happens. Something with laziness happens. Something with meetings happens. Continually, story after story after story with the Browns. Just could never get it. Just like Jenny. Just, what's going on? Like, we see that scene, like I mentioned earlier, with her at Forrest in D.C., and it's like, they meet again, and then she's, like, got a needle in her arm. Like, come on, what's going on? Well, then now he's with the Patriots now. He's with Tom Brady, with Bill Belichick. Maybe we see his happy ending come to fruition. Makes sense to me. That
Dude, you know what?
That seems like a Jenny, so I don't know.
Yes. Love it.
So there you have it. There's the casting call.
There it is. That might be your best one yet.
That was a good one.
That was a good one.
Very fitting. I think all of our characters and who played who fit very well.
Yes, sir.
But what a great addition of the Coach and the Don. Anything you need to add?
No, this was a good episode. I enjoyed it. I think you guys will enjoy listening to it more than we enjoyed producing it, but that's up to you guys, I guess.
I hope they do. I do want to mention, if you made it through this long, I wanted to mention this earlier, but obviously everyone in California, or even if you're not in California, knows about the devastating wildfires that are going around. Tons of people are just displaced from homes. So many other things that just need to be helped with, and we want to do everything we can here at Sports Dente to help. We always ask you to subscribe. You know, it obviously helps us as a business, and I can try to sell you on the content we produce, and I think we're doing some really cool things. But I think it's better that we
let's re-record that last part, because with that music playing in the background of what you're talking, it's gonna fucking ruin the whole thing. Like we gotta say that with that music, dude.